Future CEO ordered to brew coffee. Minutes later, she takes over a billion-dollar empire. Black coffee. Fast. The director barked without so much as a glance, thrusting the empty cup toward her. She froze for a moment, gripping her application folder. The aroma of freshly roasted beans still hung in the air. She wasn't an assistant. She wasn't even an intern. Yet, she took the cup, with a faint, knowing smile. He had no idea who she was, or what she was about to become. That young woman was Olivia Brooks, and in just a few minutes, she would step into a room of power and make history, seizing control of a billion-dollar tech empire they never saw coming. The story began on a sweltering Monday morning, as the first rays of sunlight glinted off the glass facade of the Hamilton Dynamics skyscraper. Known as the heart of a billion-dollar innovation hub, this place was reserved for only the most elite, who strode in with heads held high. Yet that day, every pair of eyes in the boardroom settled on a young black woman slipping through the glass doors, blending into the murmur of million-dollar strategy talks and curious stares. Olivia Brooks walked with quiet confidence, her curls pulled back neatly, dressed simply in a dark suit and modest heels. Her gaze was clear and resolute, but the powerful men seated around the table didn't notice. To them, she looked like a new assistant or some intern, and they made their assumptions all too quickly. Amid the chatter about seven-figure plans, John Carter, senior vice president at Hamilton Dynamics, fixed Olivia with a cold stare, tapped the empty coffee cup before him, and sneered arrogantly, "Hey, miss, get me a cup of coffee. Black. No sugar." Silence fell instantly. Others glanced at Olivia, some snickering under their breath. Olivia's shoulders tensed, her breath caught in her chest. In that moment, the talented young woman saw all too clearly the invisible barriers standing between her and the seat she deserved. But Olivia didn't protest or argue. Instead, with surprising calm and poise, she offered a gentle, courteous smile and replied, "Yes, Mr. Carter." She lifted the cup gracefully and strode out of the boardroom, every step measured and proud, despite the dismissive and disdainful gazes trailing behind her. None of them suspected that Olivia Brooks, the very woman they had belittled and ordered to fetch coffee, would within hours claim the highest authority in the entire corporation. And they certainly had no inkling that the cup of coffee she was about to retrieve would mark the beginning of a dramatic, game-changing revolution at Hamilton Dynamics. The soft echo of Olivia's footsteps on the plush carpet guides her away from the boardroom of power, where a grievous misunderstanding and insult just occurred. Clutching the empty coffee cup John Carter had coldly handed her, Olivia maintains her composure, but inside her heart, the harsh memories of childhood surge like a mighty wave, stirring every hidden corner of her soul. Born and raised in a cramped apartment deep in one of Brooklyn's poorest neighborhoods, Olivia Brooks quickly became aware of the limitations life imposed on her. She never experienced a carefree childhood like other kids. No lazy weekend mornings in front of the TV watching cartoons, no field trips with friends. From a very young age, Olivia understood that every meal on the table, every outfit she wore, was paid for with her mother's sweat, tears, and health. Her mother, the remarkably resilient Carol Brooks. Carol was a petite black woman, yet she carried extraordinary strength. When her husband died of a heart condition, leaving 5-year-old Olivia behind, Carol had no time to grieve. Life didn't allow her to be weak. Each day, she rose before dawn to prepare the simplest breakfast for her daughter, then hurried off to her first job cleaning rooms at a downtown hotel. After that, she washed dishes in a small Brooklyn eatery, and in the evening she silently took on yet another cleaning shift at the local mall. Olivia rarely saw her mother rest, and even more rarely saw her genuine smile, because time was a luxury neither of them could afford. Witnessing her mother's quiet sacrifice planted a fierce ambition and unbreakable resolve in Olivia's heart. She vowed that their future would never depend on anyone else, that Carol would never again collapse from exhaustion on their sofa at midnight. Olivia dreamed of doing something monumental, something her mother could proudly recount to their neighbors, something that would break the cycle of poverty and prejudice they lived in. While neighborhood kids played outside, Olivia retreated to a corner with tattered economics books bought cheaply at a local used bookstore. The financial podcasts she listened to each day were downloaded on the public library's computers, where she spent hours after school to save electricity, because their power was often shut off when bills went unpaid. Through her worn cassette player, Olivia absorbed the insights of industry leaders like Warren Buffett, Indra Nooyi, and Ursula Burns. She wondered, could a small black girl from Brooklyn ever stand shoulder to shoulder with such titans? She was taunted and bullied for clutching those odd books instead of shooting hoops or jumping rope. They called her weird, a hopeless dreamer. But Olivia knew she couldn't abandon her dreams, for behind each one lay a brighter future she and her mother deserved. One evening, at 13, Olivia sat huddled in her room, overhearing her mother's anxious conversation with their landlord. Rent was weeks overdue and eviction loomed. Though Carol's voice remained steady, Olivia recognized the despair beneath. That night, she wrote a solemn promise in her journal. "Dear Mom, I promise that one day I will take you somewhere where you never have to worry about rent or any other bills. I will not stop until that promise is reality." As time passed, Olivia matured quickly under life's bitter lessons. In high school, she dared to join activities she'd never imagined: debate club, youth entrepreneurship programs, business workshops. Her relentless effort earned her a full scholarship to Harvard University, a moment that brought tears of pride to her mother's eyes. Even at prestigious Harvard, Olivia couldn't escape the shadow of bias. She was often assumed to be an affirmative action admit, whispered about as though her achievements were owed to her race. These invisible prejudices clung to her like curses. Yet, rather than deter her, they fueled the fire in her soul. All those painful memories and slights flooded back the moment Olivia held the cold, indifferent cup Carter had placed in her hand. But instead of letting anger and bitterness consume her, she felt unprecedented clarity. She recognized that this very moment was the stage for the grand dream she had nurtured since her hard childhood, boldly and unmistakably. With the same determination and resilience that had carried her through every hardship, Olivia calmly filled the cup with coffee. She knew this was only the beginning, the start of a long, challenging journey, and the priceless opportunity to prove her true worth, a worth no prejudice or obstacle could ever bury. The coffee cup was full, its rich aroma filling the air. Olivia gently set it on the small tray. Her long, strong fingers trembled ever so slightly, not from anger, but from the vivid sense of responsibility and determination burning within her. She cast a quick glance out the break room's large window, where the sprawling city lay below, its glass skyscrapers reflecting the sunlight, a stark reminder that the road ahead would not be easy. Every step forward would be riddled with prejudice, challenges, and doubt. Things Olivia knew all too well, having faced them time and again. She still remembered her first day on Harvard's campus, pride and nerves mingling in her chest as she stood in the vast quad, surrounded by students from storied, affluent families. In that moment, she realized she wasn't merely entering a world-renowned university. She was entering a world brimming with invisible biases, a world where a young black woman like her was seldom seen as truly deserving, no matter her talent or intellect. From the very start of her college years, Olivia endured skeptical stares and whispered insinuations that she'd been admitted only through special programs, not on merit. Casual jabs surfaced in hallways and dorm lounges. "You must feel lucky. Harvard wants more diversity, right? Didn't you get in through an affirmative action slot?" Olivia swallowed her tears and walked past those barbs in silence, determined to prove that her achievements were her own. Over 4 relentless years, she threw herself into her work with the force of a storm. Late nights crafting presentations, probing questions in seminars, top honors in every competition she entered. Professors who once doubted her, and classmates who had sneered, were gradually forced to acknowledge her extraordinary ability. But prejudice does not yield so easily to excellence alone. Graduating summa cum laude from Harvard, Olivia stepped into an even harsher arena, the real business world, dominated by white tycoons, where racial bias, though cloaked in politeness, remained deeply entrenched. During an internship at Elliott Financial in Manhattan, Olivia pulled an all-nighter to deliver a strategic market analysis of critical value. Yet, when she presented it to senior leadership, her work was brushed aside with a cursory pat on the shoulder, while a white colleague who had offered only minor input received the accolades. Olivia stood silent, swallowing the bitterness, vowing that this was only the first of many obstacles on her path. At the prestigious consultancy Anderson and Partners, she led a key governance innovation project for a major client, dedicating weeks of meticulous research and planning. But when the client arrived, a vice president politely relegated Olivia to technical support, handing off the presentation to an older white manager. She felt her intellect and effort erased, undervalued by the subtle biases in every glance and gesture. Yet the most painful aspect was not the prejudice itself, but the attitude of men like John Carter, powerful figures so certain of their own superiority that they openly dismissed anyone unlike them, just as he had done to Olivia at Hamilton Dynamics. Carter, the impeccably dressed senior executive, was renowned for his brilliance, but equally infamous for his ruthless treatment of subordinates. He embodied the outdated, biased corporate culture still alive in many leading firms. Olivia learned that frustration must not overwhelm her. She had to grow stronger and more resilient. Each encounter with bias, each unfair slight, reminded her that these trials would only forge her into a more formidable leader. Standing in the break room, holding the cup of coffee she'd just prepared for John Carter, Olivia felt afresh the weight of those biases. But she also understood this was her moment. Drawing in a steady breath, she refused to let fear take hold. With determination blazing in her eyes, she lifted the tray and strode back to the boardroom, ready not just to serve John Carter, but to confront and shatter the invisible barriers in their minds once and for all. Olivia's footsteps echoed with purpose and strength down the long corridor leading back to the boardroom. Just minutes ago, she'd endured John Carter's cold contempt and insult. In her hand, she still carried the silver tray holding the freshly brewed black coffee, its aroma gentle yet distinct against the storm of emotions swirling in her mind. She knew that in just a few days, everything she'd suffered, mocking laughter, icy stares, being underestimated merely because of her skin, would change forever. Exactly 2 weeks ago, Olivia received a letter she never expected. She'd been sitting in her modest apartment, applications to Hamilton Dynamics piled on her desk, when the doorbell rang. Expecting another bill or a report delivery, she opened the cream-colored envelope stamped with an attorney's seal, and sensed immediately that her life was about to be upended. Inside was a formal letter on premium stationery, each word carefully chosen so she could not misinterpret its meaning. It began politely, but delivered earth-shattering news. "Dear Miss Olivia Brooks, I am writing to inform you of a matter your mother, Miss Carol Brooks, has kept confidential at your late father's final request. My client, Mr. Robert Brooks, is your biological father and co-founder of Hamilton Dynamics. Before his passing 2 months ago, he bequeathed his entire 40% share of the company, worth billions of dollars, to you, his only daughter. Per Mr. Brooks's instructions, this information is to remain strictly confidential until the scheduled special board meeting on the third Monday of this month, at which time I will officially announce the transfer of shares. Until then, please maintain discretion to protect your interests and those of Hamilton Dynamics. Respectfully, Thomas Grant, personal attorney to Robert Brooks. Reading those words, Olivia sank into her chair, stunned. Her whole life, she'd believed her father died young of heart disease, leaving her mother to struggle alone. She never imagined he was a covert titan, an accomplished entrepreneur, a secret co-founder of the very tech empire she was about to join. Her mother, Carol, wept when Olivia showed her the letter. Carol confessed that she and Robert had loved each other deeply, but his wealthy, powerful white family never accepted their relationship. When Carol became pregnant, Robert wanted to legitimize their family, but family pressure forced him into secrecy. To shield Carol and Olivia from scorn and threats, he stayed hidden, never meeting his daughter face to face, yet always watching her growth from afar. Carol's story left Olivia both furious and profoundly grateful. Despite the sacrifice and scandal, Robert had arranged a legacy to give his daughter the chance she deserved, after all the injustice and pain she'd endured. Yet Olivia understood the road ahead would not be easy. She wasn't merely inheriting vast wealth. She was about to stand up to people like John Carter, the real power brokers at Hamilton Dynamics who would never welcome a young black woman into their top ranks. When the board meeting revealed her father's secret legacy, she would become a target for envy, resentment, and outright hostility. Especially John Carter. Olivia knew him well. Carter was not only a capable senior executive, but also fiercely ambitious and deeply conservative. An unwavering believer that power belonged only to certain kinds of people. He would never accept that she, a young black woman, could stand on equal footing with him or even surpass him in authority. Olivia paused at the boardroom door, took a deep breath, her heart pounding. When she swung that door open, she would carry not just a cup of hot coffee, but the promise of a monumental battle. Yet this time, Olivia felt no fear. Her father, Robert Brooks, had given her a strength no prejudice could overcome. Clenching the doorknob, Olivia smiled confidently, knowing that the secret she carried would not only transform her destiny, but soon shake Hamilton Dynamics to its core. The boardroom door swung open, the hinge's harsh creak striking Olivia's heart like a hammer. Her eyes swept the room, taking in the most powerful men at Hamilton Dynamics seated around the sleek, long table, their faces radiating arrogance and indifference. Olivia stepped in, holding the silver tray with the black coffee Carter had ordered. He sat upright, eyes glued to his tablet, too absorbed to look up when Olivia quietly set the cup down before him. "Faster," he snapped coldly. "This meeting isn't waiting for your coffee run." A few mocking chuckles echoed around the table. Olivia said nothing. She stepped back and stood silently in the corner, her mind a storm of pain and anger. She'd never felt more demeaned. Yet, in that moment, she vowed to herself that these insults would only forge her will and determination into steel. But Olivia's challenging first day didn't end there. As soon as the meeting adjourned, she left the boardroom, intending to head to her office and prepare for the upcoming special board meeting announcement. Before she could reach the door, a man in a white shirt with rolled-up sleeves and a loose tie stormed toward her, scowling. It was Greg Mason, a mid-level manager in planning. "Hey, you!" Greg barked, roughly shoving a stack of documents toward her. "Photocopy these for me. Now, I'm in a rush." Olivia froze, then forced herself to stay calm. "I'm afraid you've got the wrong person. I'm not in the assistant department." Greg raised an eyebrow, appraising her head to toe with undisguised contempt. "You're not an assistant? Then what are you, a janitor? Chop chop, I don't have all day." Olivia inhaled slowly, ready to defend herself, but Greg thrust the papers into her hands and stormed off, muttering in irritation. Olivia stood there, her hands tight around the documents, her skin scorching from the insult. But she reminded herself that she would comply, not out of submission, but to fuel her resolve. Every sneer today would drive her to fight harder tomorrow. Less than 10 minutes later, after completing Greg's request, she returned to her office only to be blocked by an older woman with a stern expression. Margaret Simmons, head of administration, was notorious for her icy demeanor. "What are you doing here?" Margaret demanded tersely. Olivia offered a polite smile. "I'm Olivia Brooks. I'll be working directly with the board this week." Margaret eyed her with scornful suspicion, curling her lip. "Working with the board? I don't recall the company hiring someone to cater the board's snacks this week." It felt as though someone punched Olivia in the chest. Her jaw clenched as she struggled to rein in her anger. "You must be mistaken. The board personally invited me." "Save it," Margaret cut her off, cold as ice. "Show up a bit early and set out refreshments for this afternoon's meeting. The board is very particular. Don't screw it up." With that, Margaret turned on her heel and left Olivia standing alone, her throat tightening with bitterness and humiliation. She steadied her breath, letting reason remind her that the best revenge would be to prove her true worth through action, not words. But the day's ultimate insult was yet to come. That afternoon, as Olivia took her seat in the boardroom, John Carter re-entered, his scowl deepening. He fixed her with a disdainful glare and spoke with icy authority. "Olivia, stand up and brew coffee for the entire board immediately. This is an important meeting. We don't have time for debate." All eyes turned to her. Some stifled laughs rippled through the room, as though everyone agreed with Carter's blatant contempt. Olivia rose, fury boiling inside her, but she swallowed it down. She knew that if she remained calm just a little longer, the day when her tormentors regretted their scorn would arrive soon. Walking the long corridor back to the break room to make coffee had never felt so heavy. Each step cut at her pride like a blade, but in that moment, her determination crystallized like iron. She vowed that someday soon, everyone who had belittled and insulted her today, John Carter, Greg Mason, Margaret Simmons, would look at her with a very different respect. As she filled the brewer, Olivia caught her reflection in the glass door. Her eyes were fierce with resolve, no hint of weakness or fear. She knew today was only a small test, a necessary stepping stone toward the summit of power she was destined to reach. And as long as she persisted and never gave up, every prejudice and insult would eventually become the stepping stones to her remarkable success. Dark brown coffee dripped slowly into the cup, its steady patter filling the break room's hush. Olivia watched the sluggish stream intently, humiliation smoldering alongside anger in her chest. More than anything, though, she knew she couldn't let these emotions control her. She inhaled deeply, composed herself, and gently lifted the tray, carrying the coffee back into the boardroom. By the time Olivia returned, the strategy meeting had been underway for several minutes. She slipped into a small chair at the back, observing in silence. No one even noticed her. The powerful executives were busy discussing Hamilton Dynamics' future business strategies with confidence, but the ideas sounded stale and uninspired, lacking any real innovation. Olivia frowned as John Carter outlined plans she recognized as outdated, impractical, and potentially disastrous for the company. Carter stood before a large screen, rattling off superficial charts and half-baked figures. He peppered his talk with flowery jargon to seem professional, but Olivia saw through it to the emptiness beneath. The board members nodded along robotically, none daring to challenge him. After all, Carter was one of the company's most powerful men after CEO Richard Hamilton, and notorious for his intolerance of dissent. A spark of fury ignited in Olivia's heart. She could not stand by as this great enterprise stagnated under the stubborn, autocratic leadership of individuals like Carter. She knew that remaining silent would cost her the chance to save the future her father had built. Unable to contain herself, Olivia sprang to her feet. The chair scraped sharply against the polished floor, and startled eyes snapped to her. Carter halted mid-sentence, his gaze cutting into her with fury and indignation. "Do you have a problem, Olivia?" he sneered, icy and mocking. "I don't recall an assistant having any business speaking up in an executive meeting." A few stifled laughs rippled through the room, fueling Carter's smugness. He expected Olivia to flush with embarrassment and sit down, but he was wrong. Straightening her posture, Olivia met his gaze with unwavering resolve. "I believe, Mr. Carter, that as a major shareholder in this company, I have every right to speak." Her words sliced through the silence like a blade. Carter's face drained of color, his usual confidence stripped away. What did you just say?" he stammered, stunned. Unfazed, Olivia moved to the front of the room. She picked up the remote and opened the dossier she'd meticulously prepared. "Few of you here know," she began, enunciating each word, "but I am Olivia Brooks, the only daughter of Robert Brooks, the secret co-founder of Hamilton Dynamics. Before his passing, my father bequeathed to me his entire 40% stake in this company. I therefore have the authority to speak and make critical decisions in this meeting." Murmurs erupted across the room. Some exchanged wide-eyed glances. Others stared at Olivia in disbelief. Carter stood frozen, hands trembling, unable to respond to the revelation. Seizing the moment, Olivia pressed on. "I've sat through Mr. Carter's presentation, and frankly, I'm disappointed. These strategies are outdated, unimaginative, and carry serious risks that could compromise our future. Hamilton Dynamics needs a bold, fresh direction, one that aligns with global trends." As she spoke, the screen displayed her research. Crisp analyses, clear data, and step-by-step plans. Her bold yet practical ideas for sustainable growth, technological innovation, and rapid international expansion captured the room's full attention. Her confident, coherent delivery won over even her fiercest skeptics. John Carter, the self-proclaimed strategy guru, stood wordless, anger and frustration mingling on his face. When her presentation concluded, Olivia paused and looked steadily at Carter and the other leaders. "I'm not here to pick fights. I'm here because it's time for Hamilton Dynamics to evolve. We cannot allow outdated mindsets and prejudices to hold us back any longer. I hope you're wise enough to see that." Stepping back, Olivia stood tall, her gaze steely, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. In that moment, she knew the real battle was only just beginning. But she felt no fear. She was prepared to fight for what she believed in, and she would never back down. The air in the boardroom was thick and heavy after Olivia's bombshell announcement. Every pair of eyes was fixed on her, some wide with surprise, others clouded with confusion or skepticism. John Carter remained standing, his face drained of color, his anger and resentment impossible to hide. In that moment, Olivia knew this was her critical chance to prove her worth. Not just to Carter, but to everyone in the room who held Hamilton Dynamics' future in their hands. She took a deep breath and stepped confidently to the giant screen, as if all the pain and insults she'd endured had evaporated. Gripping the presentation clicker firmly, she swept her gaze across their faces and began in a clear, measured, yet powerful voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, I understand my announcement may come as a shock, even seem unbelievable, but I'm not here to create conflict or controversy. I'm here because I believe Hamilton Dynamics stands at a pivotal moment, one that demands decisive action and transformation to meet the realities of today's global market. I'd like to share with you a comprehensive, concrete plan to restore Hamilton Dynamics to its rightful leadership position." She advanced to the first slide. A crisp chart appeared, detailing the current market landscape and pinpointing the weaknesses Hamilton Dynamics has suffered under the conservative, outdated leadership of people like John Carter. "Here, you can clearly see we're losing market share to competitors because we've been slow to adopt new technologies," Olivia continued, her tone sharp but not harsh. "While we tinker with obsolete business strategies, rivals have poured resources into artificial intelligence, automation, and green technology solutions. This isn't just eroding our profits, it's damaging our long-term reputation in the industry." John Carter stood motionless, his breathing rapid, eyes burning with indignation. He was facing a level of public embarrassment he'd never before experienced in his illustrious, powerful career. Yet he found no words to counter Olivia's truth. A bitter truth he'd conveniently ignored for far too long. Olivia clicked to the next slide, which laid out her clear roadmap for technological innovation. "The cornerstone of my strategy is aggressive investment in artificial intelligence and advanced digital platforms. I've analyzed successful implementations at leading global companies, and I'm confident Hamilton Dynamics has everything it takes to lead this tech revolution if we dedicate our investments wisely." She then detailed specific projects, complete with a transparent budget and a tightly scheduled rollout. Her data wasn't just accurate, it was meticulously analyzed, demonstrating her exceptional foresight and capability. But the moment that truly stunned the board was when she moved on to employee well-being and sustainable development. "Esteemed colleagues, Hamilton Dynamics can't achieve sustainable growth if we continue to ignore our most valuable asset, our people," Olivia emphasized. "Under my leadership, we will adopt rigorous environmental standards and also prioritize each employee's mental health and happiness through support programs, work-life balance initiatives, and practical benefits." She cited international studies showing the direct link between employee well-being and long-term profitability. The board members leaned in, their surprise giving way to admiration. When Olivia concluded her presentation with a bold, yet entirely feasible strategic framework, the room fell into a charged silence. For several heartbeats, no one dared speak. They were still reeling from what they'd just heard, a sharply different, comprehensive vision they'd never before encountered. Then, in that exact moment, CEO Richard Hamilton, who'd sat in silence all meeting, suddenly stood and applauded, his claps echoing clearly through the room. "Outstanding, Olivia, truly excellent." His reaction sparked a wave of enthusiastic applause from the entire board. The room resounded with applause as the unequivocal recognition of Olivia's talent and vision. John Carter's face turned ashen. He stood frozen, a storm of anger and helplessness in his eyes. Olivia accepted the acclaim in quiet assurance, fully aware that this was only the beginning. Carter and his allies would not relinquish their power easily, but she no longer felt fear. Today, she had sparked a vital change, not just for herself, but for Hamilton Dynamics' long-term future. In the blazing look of fury from John Carter, Olivia saw clearly one truth. This fight would be long and challenging, but now she was more than ready to face it and win. The applause finally died down, but the impact of Olivia's sharp presentation still lingered in every gaze and every breath in the room. Olivia stood perfectly still, her face composed, though deep inside her heart raced with a mix of excitement and pride. For the first time in her life, she truly felt the weight of the change she could bring about. Yet she also knew this victory wasn't guaranteed. There was still a major hurdle ahead, a high-stakes board meeting she would face just days later. Once news of Olivia's identity and her presentation broke, it spread through Hamilton Dynamics like a storm and soon reached the press. Leading business and tech outlets ran sensational headlines. Hamilton Dynamics rocked by mysterious shareholder. Secret heiress shakes up leadership. And could a young black woman become Hamilton Dynamics' next CEO? Olivia instantly became the center of public attention, with reporters clamoring for interviews and shout-outs for an exclusive story. Despite the buzz, Olivia remained focused on her true goal. She knew the most critical battle still lay ahead, the board vote to decide Hamilton Dynamics' next CEO. The meeting was scheduled for an early morning, when the city was still shrouded in mist and the sun was only just creeping above the skyscrapers. As Olivia walked into the room, every board member was already seated, and, unusually, the press was there too, eager to witness the outcome. Incumbent CEO Richard Hamilton opened the meeting in his steady, authoritative tone. Today, we gather to decide the future of Hamilton Dynamics. As you know, Ms. Olivia Brooks, who holds 40% of the company's shares by the will of the late co-founder Robert Brooks, has been officially nominated for the CEO position. I believe, after her outstanding presentation, we all recognize her capabilities. However, procedure demands we proceed with a formal, public vote. John Carter immediately rose to his feet, his expression grave, eyes cold with anger. Colleagues, while Ms. Brooks' presentation was indeed impressive, I urge you to consider carefully that she is still very young and lacks the experience to lead a company of Hamilton Dynamics' stature. This decision will profoundly impact our future. We cannot let momentary enthusiasm sway us. He scanned the room, seeking allies among those he believed still wary of this bold choice, and added, "We need a seasoned leader who can make measured, steadfast decisions. Let's not be dazzled by flashy rhetoric. I hope you'll vote with prudence." Olivia listened quietly to Carter's objections. She didn't feel anger, rather, she felt pity. She knew his concerns were less about her experience and more about his fear of losing power and influence. For years, Carter had manipulated the company through his personal authority. Now, he sensed a real threat in Olivia, someone capable of upending the old order he'd helped maintain. Richard Hamilton nodded and called for the vote. The room grew so tense one could hear every heavy breath. One by one, board members raised their hands and voiced their votes. Early tallies leaned decisively in Olivia's favor, rattling Carter further. He gripped the table's edge, beads of sweat forming on his brow. When it was Carter's turn, he stood and declared resolutely, "I oppose appointing Olivia Brooks as CEO. My stance remains unchanged. She is not the right fit." But his lone dissent was met with cold stares. No one else offered support. Finally, Richard Hamilton cast the last vote. "I fully trust Olivia Brooks. I vote to appoint her CEO of Hamilton Dynamics." His decisive vote sealed the count at 8-1, prompting a roar of congratulatory applause as cameras flashed, capturing the historic moment. Olivia stood overwhelmed with emotion, her heart swelling with victory and gratitude. John Carter sat down, pale and silent, staring at the table in defeat. In that moment, he felt the collapse of the power he once wielded, realizing that the era of leaders like him had truly ended. Olivia stepped forward, her gaze steady and resolute. She understood the enormous responsibility she'd just been entrusted with, but she no longer felt fear. Now, she was ready to lead Hamilton Dynamics into a new era, one where merit, leadership, and fairness always triumph over outdated prejudices and autocratic power. That day, headlines everywhere hailed Olivia's resounding victory, calling her the symbol of change in tech and marking the moment history took a bold, new turn under her leadership. Thunderous applause rolled through the luxurious boardroom. Yet for Olivia, the sound felt distant. Inside her swirled emotions, joy, pride, and a touch of wistfulness at the thought of the long, arduous path she had traveled. Flashbulbs from the press punctuated her composed confidence, illuminating the young black woman just declared the new CEO of Hamilton Dynamics. Olivia stepped up to the podium, her strides sure yet filled with feeling. Dozens of microphones and camera lenses pointed at her, waiting on her next words. She placed her hands lightly on the stand, inhaled deeply to steady her breath, and the room fell into an expectant hush. Across the room, John Carter cowered in a corner, his eyes blazing with impotent fury. He stared at Olivia as if he still could not believe what had just happened. Carter had always believed power in this company belonged to men like him, white, experienced, and accustomed to controlling everything. Now, his position and convictions lay in ruins before him, replaced by a young black woman he once saw only as coffee service. Sensing the charged gazes on her, Olivia glanced at her prepared notes, but then realized this was no time for script. She set the papers aside, looked up, and met the eyes of everyone waiting. A gentle smile crossed her lips, and she began in a clear, resonant voice, brimming with heartfelt conviction. Just yesterday, in this very room, I was asked to serve coffee to the board, a request that, I'm certain, if I weren't a young black woman, no one would ever have made. The room dropped into such silence you could hear its own heartbeat. Olivia let her gaze sweep across the crowd before speaking with even greater strength. But today, I stand here not to harbor bitterness or anger. I stand here to declare that such prejudices cannot and must not determine the future of any person or any company. We cannot build tomorrow on the biases of yesterday. Applause thundered again, many rising to their feet, moved by the power and inspiration of her words. Olivia raised a hand to gently hush them, then pressed on, her eyes unwavering, her voice resolute. I know that today I stand before you not only as Hamilton Dynamics' new CEO, but as a representative for millions who face prejudice and injustice every single day simply for being different. Today, I want to send a clear message. We all deserve respect and fair judgment based on our abilities and character, not on our gender, age, or skin color. Throughout her speech, John Carter sat motionless, knuckles white as he gripped the table. He struggled to contain his rising anger, yet he could not deny the truth of her words. Deep down, he knew he'd been wrong, but his pride and ingrained bias held him back from admitting it. Olivia's voice softened with emotion as she continued. I pledge that under my leadership, Hamilton Dynamics will stand not only as a leader in technological innovation and sustainable growth, but as a place where diversity, equality, and respect are paramount. We will prove that our differences are not obstacles, but the greatest strengths that spark extraordinary achievement." Her final words echoed through the hall, and the room erupted in cheers and applause that rolled like a wave down the corridors, spilling beyond the boardroom and sweeping across social media. Her message ignited a powerful inspiration, shared by thousands as a clarion call for equality and justice. As the ovation subsided, Olivia stepped down from the podium, her heart full yet peaceful. She knew she had won a critical battle, but the struggle to transform the company's culture and mindset had only just begun. She glanced once more at John Carter, who quickly turned away, unable to meet her confident, determined gaze. Yet Olivia felt no anger, only pity for those like Carter, trapped in their outdated prejudices and blinded by them. In that moment, she understood she was more than a CEO. She was a pioneer of real change for Hamilton Dynamics and a broader society, and she knew that was her greatest victory. The moment she stepped down from the podium, her heart brimming with emotion, Olivia knew that her words had been more than a beautiful message. They were a declaration of her determination to take concrete action to reshape Hamilton Dynamics' destiny. She left the room to sustained applause, her gaze fixed straight ahead, fully focused on the goals she had set for the weeks to come. In just a few short weeks since officially taking the helm, Olivia made it abundantly clear she wasn't the kind of leader who spoke in platitudes. Every decision she made was practical, decisive, and struck at the very foundation of Hamilton Dynamics. Her first and most dramatic move was to completely restructure the board of directors, a shakeup that reverberated throughout the company and caught the media by storm. Without hesitation, she dismissed John Carter, the longtime emblem of entrenched conservatism, known for his autocratic style and contempt for subordinates. From the outset, Olivia recognized that Carter personified the outdated, prejudiced culture she was determined to eradicate. His departure stunned many and left his former allies unsettled by the young CEO's resolute leadership. Carter's exit marked the initial turning point in the corporation's transformation. Immediately thereafter, Olivia filled the board with new members who not only possessed outstanding expertise but also shared her core values of diversity, equity, and innovation. For the first time in the company's history, the board reflected a broad array of backgrounds. Women and leaders of color joined the ranks, sparking widespread community support and nationwide media attention. But Olivia didn't stop at symbolic gestures. Driven by boundless energy and unwavering resolve, she launched a series of high-impact initiatives to accelerate Hamilton Dynamics' growth. A flagship program was a youth leadership academy designed specifically for young people from underprivileged communities. To Olivia, this initiative held deep personal meaning, reminding her of her own challenging childhood in Brooklyn, watching her single mother work tirelessly yet still struggle to make ends meet. The program quickly resonated with the community. Hundreds of applicants signed up within its first week. Olivia personally met with participants, sharing her own story of overcoming prejudice and adversity. These engagements not only cemented her credibility, but also rallied employees and the broader community around Hamilton Dynamics' evolving vision and values. Alongside her focus on inclusion, Olivia prioritized technological innovation and sustainability. Under her guidance, the company established a dedicated investment fund for cutting-edge projects, particularly in clean energy, artificial intelligence, and advanced digital solutions. Before long, Hamilton Dynamics had become a go-to backer for promising tech startups, fostering a vibrant innovation ecosystem that attracted international investors. The results were immediate. In the first quarterly report since Olivia's appointment, profits soared to a 10-year high. Yet Olivia considered the most significant achievement to be the dramatic uplift in employee morale and engagement. by championing mental health support programs, improving workplace conditions, and hosting workshops on work-life balance, she drove a marked increase in staff satisfaction. Olivia recognized that this cultural shift was the real foundation for the company's long-term success. She received heartfelt letters from employees thanking her for finally making them feel truly valued and respected. These testimonials only reinforced her belief that every change she was implementing was not only right but essential. Meanwhile, the media lauded Olivia as the architect of a revolution at Hamilton Dynamics, transforming it from a bastion of conservatism into a beacon of innovation, sustainability, and social justice. Yet Olivia knew that behind the scenes, forces like John Carter and his old allies, though no longer in the company, would continue to sow doubt and resistance. Undeterred, Olivia pressed on. With unwavering conviction in her vision, she led Hamilton Dynamics forward, converting every challenge and active opposition into fuel for building and protecting a brighter future for everyone around her. Olivia's bold, decisive strides at Hamilton Dynamics soon transcended the walls of a single corporation. Under her steadfast leadership, the company became a shining symbol of real change in the American tech industry, an industry long dominated by entrenched biases and traditional conservative power. In just a short time, Olivia Brooks stopped being just a name on financial reports and board agendas. It became a powerful message and a vibrant emblem of the new values society was hungry for. Before long, Olivia's journey, overcoming invisible barriers and social prejudice, spread everywhere. Major publications like Forbes and Time dedicated feature-length stories to her life and career, calling her a leader redefining the face of tech and the new icon of equality in business. Olivia, the young black woman from Brooklyn who'd once been asked to fetch coffee at a critical board meeting, had now become the very embodiment of the sweeping change America was aching to see. Yet what moved Olivia most wasn't the media attention or the flashy accolades. It was the profound inspiration her story offered young people, especially girls of color facing the same prejudices she once endured. Each week, her office received hundreds of letters from across the country, heartfelt notes from young women who'd found hope in Olivia's example. A 17-year-old from Chicago wrote that, for the first time, she believed she could one day become a leader herself. A college student in Atlanta confessed that she'd nearly given up on her tech dreams because she felt unwelcomed, until she read Olivia's story. Those letters did more than touch Olivia's heart. They galvanized her resolve. She began accepting invitations to speak at top universities, Harvard, Stanford, Columbia, where she appeared as a premier inspirational speaker. In those talks, Olivia shared her journey with unvarnished honesty, laying bare the hardships she overcame to reach where she stood today. She emphasized to students that their path would be fraught with challenges, often rooted in society's own outdated prejudices. But the most crucial element, as Olivia constantly reminded them, is perseverance and unwavering belief in one's true value. Those talks became catalysts for thousands of young people, igniting confidence and drive to pursue fields they'd never dared to consider. A defining moment of Olivia's growing influence came with her invitation to speak at the Global Tech Summit, one of the world's most prestigious technology events. Before an audience of thousands from around the globe, she delivered an impassioned address on the importance of diversity, equity, and social responsibility in modern tech. In the crowd that day sat her mother, Carol Brooks, in the front row, eyes shining with pride and tears. For Olivia, seeing the mother who once juggled 3 jobs to raise her now, watching her speak on an international stage was the most priceless moment she'd ever imagined. Behind the scenes, however, opponents like John Carter continued to try to tarnish her reputation. After his dismissal, Carter took to the media, accusing Olivia of being too young, too inexperienced, and exploiting her race for attention. But those attacks grew ever weaker in the face of the clear achievements Olivia was racking up. Rather than respond publicly, Olivia chose silence, letting her tangible results speak louder than any debate. She understood that true, lasting change cannot be forged through pointless arguments, but through real outcomes and positive action pursued day after day. Before long, Carter's credibility collapsed entirely, as both the public and his former allies recognized that the biases he championed had long since passed their sell-by date. Meanwhile, Olivia continued gracing magazine covers, earning thunderous applause at every appearance, and, most importantly, inspiring millions worldwide. Olivia's story had grown far beyond a personal triumph. It became a powerful symbol of resilience, courage, and the transformative power of faith in equality and diversity. And deep in her heart, Olivia knew that was her greatest achievement. Not her wealth or personal fame, but the positive change she had ignited throughout society. After all the spotlight, the thunderous applause, and the endless praise in the press, Olivia still ended every workday with a simple ritual. She'd quietly stroll the halls of Hamilton Dynamics, offering a warm, genuine smile, and greeting everyone she passed, from the nighttime security guard at the desk to the custodial staff diligently polishing the floors. Even at the height of her fame, her heart never strayed from the reality that every one of those people was quietly contributing to the company's success. She understood the value of every individual because she had once been in their shoes, overlooked and underestimated. The memory of her very first day at Hamilton Dynamics remained vivid. The coffee cup John Carter had ordered her to fetch, the look of contempt in his eyes, the icy tone of his demand, all as clear as if it were yesterday. But now, when she thought back on that moment, Olivia no longer felt hurt or bitterness. Instead, she felt deep gratitude, for that small but significant moment taught her the most important lesson of her life. True leadership isn't about wielding power, it's about serving others. Olivia never forgot that lesson, and she strived to live it in every decision she made. In board meetings, she always stressed the importance of listening and empathizing with voices that often go unheard. Her policies aimed to create a healthy, fair workplace where every contribution, from senior executives down to new hires, was respected and valued. Of course, the road she chose was not always paved with roses. Though John Carter and his allies no longer held direct power at Hamilton Dynamics, they never gave up their attempts to undermine Olivia's reputation. Carter frequently appeared on business forums, seizing every opportunity to attack her as too young and untested, accusing her of exploiting her race and gender for publicity. Olivia was well aware of these attacks, but she refused to engage them directly. Instead of responding with words, she kept her focus on her work, confident that her results, both for the company and the community, would be the most powerful proof of her leadership. Meanwhile, Carter sank deeper into bitterness and resentment. After being dismissed, he tried and failed to rebuild his career at other firms. His downfall was swift. His reputation had been irreparably damaged when the public and business community recognized that the outdated prejudices he represented had become a serious barrier to progress and innovation in the modern world. Day by day, Olivia continued to demonstrate that the best choice a leader can make is to put service first. Under her guidance, Hamilton Dynamics flourished. Its sustainable tech initiatives and social responsibility programs earned widespread recognition at home and abroad. Global partners flocked to the company, drawn not only to its cutting-edge products, but also to the integrity and ethical values Olivia had instilled. Yet Olivia's proudest accomplishments weren't the awards or headlines. They were the quiet moments when she overheard employees saying they felt truly valued for the first time in their careers. Those small conversations, to her, carried more meaning than any trophy or title. One late afternoon, as the sun dipped behind the city's skyscrapers, Olivia sat in her office, sipping coffee and reflecting on everything that had happened. A gentle knock sounded at the door. Looking up, she saw a familiar face she hadn't expected. John Carter, standing awkward and tentative, a far cry from the proud, arrogant man he once was. "May I have a word, Olivia?" Carter asked hesitantly. Olivia smiled and motioned for him to enter. He took a seat across from her, exhaustion and regret etched on his face. After a moment's silence, he spoke. "I've spent a lot of time thinking about what happened between us. I used to believe power meant controlling others, but now I realize how wrong I was. You've shown me that true strength lies in serving and caring for people. I'm sorry for everything I did to you." Olivia regarded him kindly, without a trace of blame in her eyes. "Thank you for saying that, Carter. I've never held it against you, because I know we all learn and grow from our mistakes." When Carter left, Olivia sat alone, her heart filled with peace. She looked down at the coffee cup on her desk, the same symbol of insult that had become the greatest emblem of her most precious life lesson. She smiled once more, this time with complete serenity and joy. She understood that no matter how high she climbed, the true value of life always lies in serving others sincerely and with love. And sometimes, those greatest lessons begin with something as simple as a small coffee cup. That is the story of Olivia Brooks, a young black woman who overcame harsh prejudice to become a beacon of change, resilience, and servant leadership. She proved that nothing is impossible when you believe in yourself and hold fast to your dignity, no matter the circumstances. Did Olivia's journey inspire you? What do you think about her experiences and her path to becoming CEO? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share this meaningful story, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.